When it was decided that I would live with my parents again, I came home and told my wife about it. She exploded, saying,
Why would you decide something like that without asking me first?
I replied, living with them is only natural, isn't it? The truth is, we're having trouble over this whole cohabitation issue, and I'm not sure how to convince her. Here's the family situation. I'm 37 years old and work for a company. My wife is 39, working as a temporary employee. We have 2 children, a 6-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. Because my workplace has always been close to my parents' home, I would visit often. One day, the topic of living together came up unexpectedly. We discussed it, and it was agreed upon without any major conflict. So, when I got home and reported this to my wife, she immediately got angry, accusing me of making a unilateral decision. I told her, it's not like I did it on a whim. If we're going to buy a house, it's better to take out a longer mortgage now rather than wait until we're over 40 and then move in with my parents. It's obvious that it's better to do it now. But she refused to listen, and that time it turned into a heated, emotional shouting match. Later, when we tried to have a calm discussion, I realized her anger came down to 3 main points. First, this was the first time she had ever heard about living together, and she couldn't accept that I hadn't consulted her beforehand. Second, she was concerned about her own parents. She comes from a family of all daughters, so she wanted to know what would happen to her parents in the future. Third, she asked what would happen with my older brother. He's 42 years old, single, and currently living with my parents. From my perspective, since I'm married and my brother is still single, it's only natural for me to move in. Her parents can be dealt with when they actually need care. There's no point in worrying about it now. As for my brother, we can't exactly kick him out, so I figured we could give one of the rooms to the kids as their bedroom. I even carefully explained the benefits of living together. We wouldn't have to pay rent anymore. With a rental, you keep paying and never own the place, but with a house, it becomes yours. If we live with my parents, they could help with housework and childcare, allowing both of us to work more. That way, we could pay off the mortgage faster, and my parents would feel reassured. But no matter what I said, she just got angrier and refused to have a real conversation. I'm the one whose name is on the current rental contract, and I plan to move out, but I'd rather not make things worse. If possible, I want to convince her. So how should I steer this conversation so she'll agree? This is a serious question, and I'd like to hear different opinions.
You're an idiot.
Someone commented.
I vote that your wife will divorce you.
Another person added.
Even if your wife doesn't have much financial power, divorcing you would just leave her struggling. She's not that stupid. But you can't even start the conversation unless you first apologize to her for not bringing up the idea of living together beforehand. It's obvious that skipping that step is the real problem. Before you lecture her about the pros and cons, you need to apologize for making such a big life decision alone.
I pushed back, saying, why should I apologize? Living with my parents is just the natural thing to do. Consultation is only necessary when the outcome isn't decided yet. When it's already decided, there's nothing to discuss. Besides, my mother will handle all the housework. She's a homemaker, so my wife wouldn't have to do anything. She could just work and earn money. If she finds a full-time job near my parents' place, then between me, my wife, and my father, we'd have 3 incomes. That's how quickly we could pay off the mortgage.
3 incomes. Wait, is your brother unemployed?
Someone asked. I answered, yes, he quit his job about 3 years ago and is currently in treatment. Our parents give him a small allowance so he can still enjoy some hobbies. Another user replied sharply.
If that's the case, why don't you just say it directly? And by the way, stop pretending depression isn't a real illness. It's serious, and as long as he's getting treatment, that's a valid reason to be unemployed.
Exactly, I said. He's going to the hospital regularly. That's just the reality. But then another person challenged me.
You're not here to find out who's right or wrong. You're just looking for ways to convince your wife, right?
Yes, I confirmed. When my parents eventually need care, living together will be unavoidable. It'll be more convenient for me since my workplace will be closer and easier for my wife to help with care too. I've thought about the future, which is why I made this decision. But my wife just keeps reacting emotionally without offering logical arguments. Someone else chimed in.
Judging by your attitude, I guess you're from a place like the American South, where family loyalty runs deep, and on forums like this, that usually makes you the target of criticism. You don't even seem to realize it, and that's concerning.
Another pointed out.
Even if what you said about your wife struggling after divorce is true, if you keep giving her that impression, it could be seen as emotional abuse. Imagine how you'd feel if the roles were reversed. Could you really not see how insulting that is?
I replied, we live in the Midwest, but that doesn't matter. It's just the truth. Then came another blunt response.
Honestly, I think your wife would be better off divorcing you and moving back to her parents' home. That might already be crossing her mind.
I scoffed. Her parents' house is too small. She can't move back there with 2 kids. And there's no way she could raise them on her own. Divorce just isn't an option for her.
Even if you do move in together.
Someone asked.
What happens when your parents pass away? Won't your unemployed brother inherit the house, since he's the eldest son?
That's exactly right, I said. He will. That's just how it is. Another replied.
So you're assuming his depression will last until your parents die? If he really had severe depression, he wouldn't be able to enjoy hobbies or eat properly.
I explained. Depression doesn't mean you're constantly bedridden. He can handle daily life just fine and even enjoy his hobbies. He's participated in small shows and competitions from time to time. I've seen him sell his idol CDs and photo collections because he didn't want to burden our parents financially. It was touching. He cried when he told us that. But within a year, his savings ran out, and now he relies on our parents for an allowance. That can't go on forever. Then someone asked,
Let's be serious. Do you honestly think your 42-year-old, unemployed, depressed brother will ever get married? That's not going to happen. Which is why I have to move back home. This is already decided, and my wife should just accept it.
I even tried to sweeten the deal by saying, once we own a house, we can get a dog. I told her the kids were already on board with the idea. In fact, this morning when I left the house, they said, tell Mom we want to live with Grandpa and Grandma.
Are you seriously using the kids and a dog to bribe her? They can't even understand the real issues here.
It's just a fact. I defended myself. In a rental apartment, you can't have dogs. But in a house, you can have dogs, cats, whatever you want. I told the kids, and they agreed living together was better.
What exactly would you be inheriting? Can you explain?
It's not about inheritance. It's about caregiving. If my parents need care, it's easier for everyone if we're already living together. My wife could work full-time until that happens, then switch to part-time while providing care. It's a smoother transition.
Why are you assuming your wife will be the one doing the caregiving? They're your parents. You should be the one taking care of them. There's no magic phrase you can say that will make her accept this. If you really want to live together, you should wait until your parents actually need care.
A few days later, in another thread, a new post appeared. This might be a silly question, a woman wrote, but aside from the divorce discussion thread here, is there any other place on this forum where I can get advice about divorce? Right now, I'm having a serious conflict with my husband. Last night, he told me that he had posted about our situation online, and that most people agreed he was right. Using that as validation, he's now pushing even harder to force us into living with his parents, which has made things even worse between us. I can't accept this, so I wanted to see for myself the post where he supposedly got all this support. I assumed it was on this site, but I couldn't find anything in the divorce advice threads. If there's another board where people discuss this, could someone point me in the right direction? Someone replied.
The internet isn't just this forum, there are many other sites. But what exactly is going on?
She explained, in short, my husband is moving forward with plans to live with his parents without my consent. His parents live with his older brother, who lost his job after a serious workplace incident, was later diagnosed with depression, and has been unemployed for about 3 years. To me, the issues are threefold. First, my husband never discussed this with me before making decisions. Second, my parents are older and in poorer health than his, so I'm worried about their care. Third, his brother's inability to live independently. The biggest problem, in my view, is his brother, not because of the depression itself, but because of his past. Years ago, he was arrested twice for luring underage girls online and engaging in inappropriate acts. That's how his company found out, and he was fired. Since then, he hasn't shown any intention of working again. When I first heard about this in passing, I thought my husband was joking. But after seeing his brother arrested again and actually prosecuted, I knew it wasn't a joke. And last winter, when we visited his parents, I witnessed his brother telling our 6-year-old daughter, "When you turn 10, you should marry me." I completely lost it and threw my drink at him right in front of the kids. The first girl he was arrested for was also in middle school, so I absolutely cannot believe it was just a joke. As long as his brother lives there, I refuse to live under the same roof. My husband insists that I'm overreacting by taking his brother's comments seriously, she continued. But I can't see it as harmless. My parents are already in their mid-70s and could need care at any time. His parents, on the other hand, are just entering their 60s. When I explained this, he said, "Your parents' care can be handled by your older sister. She owes them for all the trouble she caused." Yes, my sister divorced a few years ago and did lean on our parents during that time. But she has partial hearing loss, chronic back pain, and would struggle to provide full-time care on her own. I believe that if the time comes, my sister and I could take turns caring for our parents, making it manageable. But my husband clearly wants me to be responsible for his parents' care instead. He argues that living together now would make caregiving easier later, since we'd already be used to the arrangement. He says I could work full-time until his parents need care, then switch to part-time and take over caregiving duties. I understand that, as long as his brother remains single, I'll likely have to help care for his parents. But I question whether cohabitation is necessary right now, and whether I should be expected to neglect my own parents to do so. I want to have a full discussion about this, taking all factors into account. But my husband says, this is already decided. There's nothing to discuss. If you'd just accept it, everything would go smoothly. If he starts making arrangements without any agreement from me, like rebuilding his parents' home, then I'll seriously consider divorce. Yes, I'm just a temporary employee and don't have much income, but I could manage by taking on extra jobs if I have to. The part that really frustrates me is how he tries to sway our kids by saying, if we live in a house, we can have a dog or a cat, making it sound like they're eagerly waiting for cohabitation. It makes me question whether I'm the one being selfish, even though deep down I know I'm not. The replies to her post came quickly.
Divorce, that's the only answer here. The fact that your parents are already in their mid-70s makes this even more urgent. You and your sister should coordinate and support each other. But honestly, you should get out now.
Another warned.
Take your daughter and leave immediately. Your brother-in-law is far too dangerous, and your husband is being unbelievably foolish. This is a clear-cut case where you need to prioritize your child's safety. Remember, as a wife, you have no legal obligation to care for your in-laws.
Others were curious whether her husband's original post even existed.
I couldn't find any thread like he described, someone said. Maybe he made it up to pressure you.
Thank you for the advice, she replied. I've always believed that divorce should be the last resort, especially when children are involved. That's why I've hesitated. But when I think about my daughter, I know I could never live in the same house as my brother-in-law. If we did end up moving in, I'd want safeguards to keep him away from her. But since he shows no intention of finding a job or becoming independent, that's unrealistic. Which means living together just isn't an option. I'll try to bring this up with my husband one more time, but I'm also going to start quietly preparing for divorce in the background. This conversation here has already made me feel a bit lighter. Thank you. Someone responded.
Your husband's thread, if it exists, is probably getting torn apart by commenters. If you really want to know, ask him for the URL. He'll never give it to you. He's probably being roasted so badly that he couldn't stand to show you.
Another chimed in.
Bingo. I found it. And yes, he's getting completely destroyed in the comments. Honestly, his responses there sound exactly like what you've described. When someone points out his faults, he snaps, starts insulting people, and just makes the situation worse.
She sighed. That's exactly how he is. Once he feels attacked, he loses all reason and throws fuel on the fire. But maybe this works in my favor. If he realizes people here know the whole story, it might push me to act sooner. About a week later, she returned to post an update. After reading everyone's responses and thinking things through, I realized that while I had been worried about the negative impact divorce might have on the kids, the truth is that I'm the only one who can protect my daughter. That has to come first. What finally convinced me was reading my husband's own comments online. It was clear that nothing I'd been telling him all this time had sunk in, not even a little. I no longer saw any point in trying to talk things out. I quickly packed our essentials and valuables and moved back to my parents' home. As expected, my husband noticed almost immediately that I had seen his posts, so I'm glad I acted fast. The children were disappointed to leave, especially since they had been told we'd be getting a house and possibly a dog. But I've decided I'll take the time to explain everything to them in a way they can understand. I also contacted the lawyer who had helped my sister during her divorce. I knew my husband wouldn't agree to a divorce easily, so I wanted professional support from the start. From here on, my priority is making sure my children are safe and that this process moves forward with as little conflict as possible. Other forum users encouraged her.
If your decision is already made, let the lawyer handle everything. Avoid meeting your husband in person, it will only complicate things. The kids might be sad at first, but once they see they're in a stable and safe environment, they'll understand you made the right choice. Stay strong. You're doing the right thing.
2 months later, she returned with another update. I am the woman who asked for advice because my brother-in-law told my 6-year-old daughter, when you turn 10, you should marry me. A lot has happened since then, but thanks to a very capable lawyer, I was able to finalize the divorce. The settlement was modest, but I received a lump sum that combined damages and child support. Now I am living with my parents, and my sister is helping me. I am focusing on building a peaceful routine with the children, and for the first time in a long while, our days actually feel calm.
Glad to hear it. Protecting your child came first, and you did it. You were fortunate to find a good lawyer. I am curious, though, how did your husband react after bragging that divorce would be impossible?
She answered, I knew a direct discussion would spiral into shouting, so I let the lawyer handle everything. My husband believed I was just being stubborn and sulking. He told me, you opposed the plan because it was sudden. I get that apologizing is hard, but I am over it now, just come home. Hearing that confirmed he had not understood a single thing. Even the lawyer gave a wry smile. She continued, I was a temporary employee, but my manager had already approached me about becoming a full-time employee. I had held back because the children are still young. My husband assumed a temporary employee could never support children alone and that I would not go through with a divorce. Now my company is moving forward with a conversion to full-time employment. We will not be wealthy, but with careful budgeting, I can raise my children. My sister has promised to support us, which gives me strength. Commenters responded.
Your ex spent his time online insisting you was right, and now he faces caring for his parents and propping up his unemployed brother. Actions have consequences. Your decisiveness is a model for anyone dealing with a controlling spouse. When danger is present, move quickly.
She closed that day's update with gratitude. I moved fast because of the advice I received here. Thank you. I will keep prioritizing the children and rebuilding our life step by step. She returned once more with a final post. My ex-husband is now living back at his parents' house. According to my lawyer, he even yelled at his brother right in front of them, saying, because you're unemployed, I'm the one who has to deal with everything. If you're not going to work, at least take care of our parents and do the housework. And thanks to your disgusting hobbies that got you arrested, my life is ruined, damn you. From what I hear, things in that household are only going to get more difficult from here. But they're no longer my problem. My focus is on raising my children and moving forward with my life. Looking back, I'm grateful I didn't waste time trying to fix the marriage. The people here who advised me to leave were right, sometimes the safest, healthy. I'll continue cooperating with my sister, building a stable home for the kids, and making sure my daughter is never exposed to that environment again. Thank you to everyone who listened and offered advice when I needed it most. It made me strong enough to take action.
Distance is the best defense when you're dealing with a brother-in-law. Congratulations on making a clean escape. Keep building your life in peace. Make sure to quietly inform your social circle so your ex can't spread lies. And good luck, you deserve a fresh start.